There are many legends about dragons in China. Before the age of 16, every girl has a chance to turn. Although men can't turn into dragons, but can sign a dragon feud contract with a woman. Here the word Chou means partner. Not only did they make a private promise, but also fight with them. The girl who pointed her finger to the sky and shouted Falong, named Long Mian. Nothing happened, but was also laughed at by the onlookers. Then, Yao Bo's laughter came from behind. He said to Long Mian, "Haven't you drawn a dragon today?" Long Mian was not discouraged, but smiled and said, her 16th birthday had only just begun. There's still a chance. Then she gave the gift to Yao and his wife. Yao smiled and said after receiving the gift, "Actually, it doesn't matter if you can't draw a dragon. After all, in the past 5 years, no girl has drawn a dragon. It's not easy to turn into a dragon. In my opinion, it may not be a good thing." Before he finished speaking, Zhu grabbed his collar. She scolded, "It's best to turn into a dragon. Not only can you enter the palace and become a dragon general, and you'll be worry-free from now on. Our dragon general Duyu also turned into a dragon at the age of 16. Our dragon sleep will definitely succeed." Seeing this, Long Mian hurriedly advised them not to argue, and he had to bring something to others, and then turned around and left. Soon, he delivered the items to others one by one. When he came to the lively market, he suddenly saw a man wearing a bamboo hat, sitting against the wall on the ground. This man looks familiar, and the objects on the ground were also strange. The farmer saw that he had injuries on his hands, and thought it was caused by hunting in the forest. Long Nian took out the dragon and phoenix honey sauce, and put it on the spoon in front of the man, and told him it was very beneficial for his injury. The man was about to say thank you. He found that Long Nian had walked away, and waved to him, saying to come to him if he needed help. Just ask around on the street. Long Nian can find me. What he never expected was that, shortly after, he would have a bond with this man. In the magnificent palace of the 8 kingdoms, looked at the luxurious scene, and was instantly fascinated. Suddenly, a voice came from behind him, which instantly woke Long Mian up from shock. When she looked back, it was the young dragon Lieutenant Du Yu, and his dragon enemy Meng Xiu. Long Mian learned that the task assigned to him was to be a maid for the queen. Excitement and tension flooded her heart. She was afraid that the queen would dislike her for being ugly and dirty. After being comforted, Long Mian immediately asked Du Yu, was it useful to eat dragon honey before becoming a dragon? Du Yu smiled and said, though he had eaten dragon honey syrup before, but according to records, the process of becoming a dragon is irregular. There is no fixed method. Even bloodline inheritance is rare. Only women in this Chinese mainland can transform into dragons before the age of 16. Some local methods are false. After hearing this, asked Du Yu to tell him the story of the dragon, because he wanted to draw dragons to protect everyone. But at this moment, a fireball was flying towards them, and exploded instantly around. In the critical moment, Du Yu protected Long Mian. At this moment, a man appeared in the sky, was standing above a red dragon, and several dragons were circling around. The next second, thousands of fireballs were thrown at them. Du Yu pushed him away. Then, Du Yu turned into a dragon, and flew into the air with his dragon, and started to fight. The dragon generals from the 8 kingdoms also followed. However, their dragon generals seemed not to be the opponents. At this time, 2 dragons, one yellow and one blue, fell heavily. When Long Mian looked, they found that they were their own dragon generals, and both of them had died. Du Yu also turned back into human form, due to serious injuries. On this woman's birthday, not only her country was destroyed, but also witnessed the tragic deaths of her closest. Died tragically. The defeat of the 8 kingdoms was certain. Du Yu wanted to escort the Queen Zhuya to evacuate, but was directly rejected by the queen, because he couldn't abandon the people. A red dragon slowly came to the Queen Zhuya in the sky. The man standing on the red dragon is General Qin Mu of Yang's left dragon. Queen Zhuya knew that what they want is nothing more than the cities, minerals, and surrender of the 8 kingdoms. She told Qin Mu that, as long as they don't hurt the people of the 8 kingdoms, the 8 kingdoms would submit to Yang's state. Then she took out a blue bead from her sleeve, Qin Mu was shocked when he saw the bead. It was sealed with the power of the horned dragon, enough to flatten the entire city in an instant. Qin Mu could not escape unscathed. The orb imposed a contract with the power of dragon blood. Once one party breaks the contract, they will be punished by the power of dragon blood. Qin Mu gritted his teeth and said, "Worthy of being the queen. Your methods are really clever." Then he took the orb. "Now that the terms have been negotiated, then please hand over your life to the 8 kings. To show your sincerity and submission." Several fire snakes slowly swallowed the queen. At the last moment, Jia asked him to remember his promise. However, what no one expected was that Qin Mu turned around and ordered his men to slaughter the city. Long Mian, witnessing the deaths of Sister Zhu and Yao Bo in front of him, just as he was about to step forward with tears in his eyes, a man saved him from danger. This person was the strange man he saw on the street before. The man in the hat told him, "The 8 kingdoms had no chance of winning. Run away quickly." Meanwhile, on the other side, Diyu shouted at Qin Mu, "You despicable villain. The elegant queen sacrificed her life to complete the blood sacrifice. If you don't keep your promise, you will be punished by the power of the horned dragon and die suddenly." However, he certainly knew the power of the horned dragon. But Qin Mu is the leader of Yang's dragon generals and is best at cracking such tricks. Then he threw the orb, and the red dragon ate it in one bite. Then he killed Du Yu and Meng Shu casually. Long Mian stared blankly at this scene and couldn't believe what he saw. Sister Rabbit and Uncle Meng died like this. Long Nian ran towards them recklessly. On the way, he recalled everything that happened today. At this moment, he finally understood. Without becoming a dragon, he couldn't protect anyone. At this time, a dragon mark appeared on Long Mian's head, and blue scales slowly grew on his forehead. With a roar from Long Mian, a black and white dragon soul also rose from his head, and water columns emerged from the ground around. The man in the hat saw this scene. He wondered if the water column was his power. He thought about it. Could he be drawing a dragon? When the woman draws a dragon, the power of dragon blood in her body will run wild. If it cannot be controlled in time, and her meridians will be broken. At this moment, suddenly, the man with the hat saw danger from Longnian. He turned around, and then drew his sword, and split the boulder with a sword, and protected Long Mian, who was transforming into a dragon. He also suffered from the previous injury, causing his previous wound to reopen. The dragon on the ground was not in good condition. He was shaking all over. Suddenly, Long Mian spat out a mouthful of blood. The man in the bamboo hat quickly stepped forward to support him. The most totemic symbol on the land of China is the dragon, and this woman, a woman with blue scales all over her face, is drawing a dragon. The man in the hat asked him if he wanted to live. Long Mian said without hesitation that he wanted to live. At this moment, the man wiped the blood off his cheek, and then wiped it on Long Mian's forehead. He held her cheek and leaned in. They felt the roar in their ears, as if the sea and river were rolling. The blood is boiling, and their pulses were racing. And all of this was the power gushing out. Power was emanating from around them. They heard a ding. Their plan was officially completed. The man said to Long Mian, "From now on, you are my dragon." And the wounds on both of them also healed. Long Mian wondered if it was all due to the contract. Only then did Long Mian remember to ask who you were, why he was so familiar with dragons. It turned out that the man was a dragon seeker, which belongs to the Imperial Dragon Searching Division. He traveled around the world to find dragons. The man explained that he just awakened dragon blood and emotional excitement, which led to the loss of control of his power. Only by signing the contract can he survive. Suddenly Long Mian sensed something. He instantly jumped out with the man in his arms. It was the land under his feet that collapsed. Long Mian realized that he was so fast just now, and then punched a stone next to him, and closed his eyes tightly, and water columns shot out from the ground. Long Mian couldn't believe it. Is this her power? The man with the hat was also shocked. He didn't expect that he just awakened. He could control such a large range of power. Then the man in the hat said, "Who are you?" Black dragon attribute. Each dragon has one of the 5 elements: wood, gold, water, fire, and earth. The same goes for Long Chou. The man with the hat has the earth attribute. He can now control the earth and stone within 100 feet. The man with the hat originally wanted to talk about Chou, but was interrupted by Long Mian. Let's attack immediately. The man with the hat pulled him back, telling him that you just awakened. You're still a gray dragon, while the British dragons are flying dragons. You are no match for them. Long Mian wondered what a gray dragon and a flying dragon were. Then he was ready to transform into a dragon, to prove that he was very strong now. But he didn't expect. Long Mian was only the size of a palm after transformation. He shouted that he had already turned into a dragon. This is not a dragon, but a baby snake. At this time, the man with the hat explained that the gray dragon form was like this. After evolving, it becomes a Jiaolong, and then the flying dragon. Then it's the Jiaolong and the Yinglong. After hearing this, Long Mian, who turned back into human form, still wanted to save the people. If he doesn't awaken as a dragon, it would be meaningless. The man in the hat said that such reckless actions is just a waste of life. But if you really want to save the people in the city, he has a solution. Meanwhile, Qin Mu is asking his men about the situation in the city. His subordinate replied, they had set the capital on fire as planned, and houses were destroyed. But about half a moment ago, a large amount of water vapor suddenly rose from everywhere, covering the entire city. Qin Mu thought, all the 8 kingdoms' dragon generals had died, and the civilians couldn't do anything. Then he asked his men to inform the army to send troops to accept the capital immediately. In the northern mining area, suddenly, Qin Mu sensed something was wrong. He turned around. There was a Ceratosaurus behind them. This white dragon was a rare species in China. Qin Mu was incredulous. He looked at the suddenly appeared horned dragon. Then he ordered his men to go and see. Meanwhile, at the north gate, the remaining soldiers and civilians of the 8 kingdoms were waiting. It turned out that the fog rising from the city and the sudden appearance of the horned dragon were all done by Long Mian, and the man with the hat was to cover the evacuation of the remaining people in the city, and the white horned dragon was created by the man in the straw hat with the dragon silk. He created fantasy. Long Mian worried that the illusion of the horned dragon. The man with the hat said that with the effect of the teleportation array, there should be no worries. This is the last formation of the stable formation, and the dragon fog rising from the fire you just put out, which made him suspicious. The weak should know. The man in the straw hat found Qin Mu suspicious, believing in strength as king, and the horned dragon is far more powerful than the flying dragon. So they must not dare to approach rashly, and their dragons are fire attributes. Once they attack, new fog will rise, so we have enough time to evacuate. Just then, Long Mian heard the cry of a child behind him. When the man with the hat was about to tell him to wait, Long Mian had already rushed towards the sound. In the sky, Qin Mu's men asked if they should continue to approach. After all, it was a horned dragon. Qin Mu thought of, if there was a horned dragon in the 8 kingdoms, it couldn't have just appeared now, and the horned dragon couldn't jump out. There must be something wrong. He ordered his men to continue advancing and attack immediately when they enter range. Meanwhile, Long Mian was in the fire and rescued a little girl. Long Mian told her that she was fine. Don't be afraid. However, when the little girl wanted to turn around to say thanks, she found that the other was a dragon. She immediately broke free from Long Mian and ran away, because he knew that all the dragons in his country had died. If it was a dragon now, must be the enemy. And this little girl was the sister of the Queen Zhuya. Zhu Meng told Long Mian that he was from the 8 kingdoms. Zhu Meng said he was lying, tears in her eyes, trembling and saying that there were no dragons. Suddenly Long Mian hugged her. I am the dragon of the 8 kingdoms. Princess Zhu Meng, please believe me. I, Long Mian, will definitely make Yong pay for it. At this time, Zhu Meng finally believed and cried in Long Min's arms. Zhu Meng said it was great. The seal that my sister asked me to guard can be kept. And this seal can close the entrance of the backing vein. And backing is a precious mineral unique to the 8 kingdoms. It is beneficial to the dragon class, and refine and strengthen dragon weapons. At this time, The man in the bamboo hat noticed that the fog was gradually dispersing, but the British dragon general never attacked. Could his plan have been discovered? Then he immediately turned around and called, "Longmian, let's go." In the sky, Qinmu was cautious. He directly used a stronger dragon dance formation. He didn't launch a long-range attack. Only then did he realize that the horned dragon was an illusion. The fog had completely dissipated at this time. Qinmu also saw Longmian and the others. He thought it was a trick played by them. At this time he said, "Well, how dare you play tricks on me? I will make you these ignorant and worthless people, to make you wish you were dead." Qinmu raised his hand, and several stone pillars wrapped in flames appeared behind him. This man stepped on a red dragon, and raised his hand to create countless stone pillars. Longmian used water shield to block some attacks, but due to the huge disparity in strength, in a short time, 2 stone pillars had already been inserted into Longmian's arms. The man in the bamboo hat hurried forward to support. Zhu Meng saw this scene, turned around and shouted to the sky, "Damn it! The bad guys of Yong Kingdom, you will be punished." At this time, he was pleasantly surprised to find that the Qinmu in the air was wrapped in a blood mist. Qinmu covered his chest in pain. After the blood mist dissipated, Qinmu and the red dragon both spat out a mouthful of blood. Both of them fell from the sky. Qinmu's men saw the situation was not right. They wanted to catch Longmian and the others first, but found that they had disappeared. It turned out that the Queen of Bamboo Teeth had cast a double blood spell. The wooden part was dissolved, and the surface attacked recklessly, and was torn to pieces by the power of another dragon. Longmian next to him thought it was great. The queen's sacrifice was not in vain. Before Longmian finished speaking, he passed out due to exhaustion and injury. When Longmian passed out, she saw the Queen Zhuya. When he wanted to catch her, she found her hands had turned into dragon claws. Zhuya Queen asked her to use her power to create a country where everyone can be happy. Then she turned into nothing and disappeared. Longmian wanted to go forward and ask her not to leave, but unexpectedly, he felt his feet empty and fell down. In reality, Longmian fell from a tree. When he woke up, he was still confused. How he fell from the tree, seeing that his wounds had healed, but it still hurt slightly. He wondered if everything that happened today, was it really not a dream? Thinking of Zhu Sa, Yaobo Duyu's sister and Uncle Meng all died. Tears flowed down uncontrollably. Suddenly Zhu Ming came over and scolded loudly. "I just managed to put the little ghosts to sleep. Your crying woke them all up." Longmian thought there were no ghosts. He looked aside. It turned out that they were all escaped people. Zhu Meng, the citizen of the 8 kingdoms, saying that tears are the most useless thing now. She would inherit her sister's will from today on, and lead all the people of the 8 kingdoms to rebuild the 8 kingdoms together. Longmian also stood up, saying he would defeat Yang's dragon general to avenge the 8 kingdoms. But Zhu Meng said, "Sister Longmian, your power is still too weak. Several times it was the big brother who saved you." Only then did Longmian remember to ask where he was. Zhu Meng told her that the big brother brought us here. After meeting everyone, he went to live on the hillside. Meanwhile, the man with the hat was thinking about something and found someone coming. Longmian jumped to the tree. Only then did they have a chance to formally introduce. "Let's formally introduce ourselves. I'm Longmian. And you?" The man with the hat broke a branch and carved the 3 words Su Qianyi on the tree trunk. Longmian actually read it as Su Qianqi and said he liked to eat steamed bun dry and kept talking about food. Su Qianyi angrily broke the branch, saying that he is Qian who is still strong after many trials. He that leans against the cliff. Longmian awkwardly said that Su Qianyi's name is good. In fact, he thought the character was too difficult to recognize. Then Longmian changed the subject. He thanked him for saving himself. "And thanks to your plan, so many people could leave the city. In China, girls have a chance to become dragons before 16. The protagonist Xuanlong Silk is an institution dedicated to training dragon generals." Longmian asked if he would take him to the capital. Su Qianyi directly replied no. Only then did Longmian breathe a sigh of relief, because he wanted to stay here to help everyone rebuild the 8 kingdoms. Su Qianyi said he would find a way to lift the spell. He doesn't want to be a dragon ugly, and doesn't need a dragon. Long Mian asked if you were leaving. We just fought side by side. But on second thought, it's right. After all, the 8 kingdoms was just one of your travels through the countries. And you are so powerful, while I'm too weak. But one day I will become a Jinglong, to avenge everyone. At this moment, Su Qianni looked into Long Mian's deep blue eyes, and couldn't help being stunned. However, the next second, a ball of water was directly thrown on Su Qianni's face. Long Mian quickly explained awkwardly that he accidentally missed. At this moment, Su Qianni thought, did he really think he was too tired just now? Then he jumped down from the tree. However, he suddenly drew his sword, and a sword energy swung towards Long Mian. Long Mian thought, I just splashed water on you. He wouldn't draw his sword to cut me, would he? It turned out that Su Qianni cut the branch to help Long Mian avoid the sudden attack. The attacker was a man in a red robe, and a little girl with dragon horns behind him. Long Mian asked who you were. The man in red replied, I am the second-rank official of the empire, named Long Yin, the man's immediate superior. Long Mian was puzzled. Since you know each other, why did you still attack? Long Yin said he wanted to attack a lovely little girl like you. He was also very embarrassed. But before Long Yin finished speaking, 3 attacks hit Long Mian directly, and he said, saying that the ominous black dragon must be killed. Long Mian thought this person was so strong, he couldn't even see his attack clearly. Long Yin asked Su Qianni not to interfere, otherwise it would be bad to accidentally hurt you. Although Long Mian knew he had no chance of winning, he still wanted to take a chance, because before becoming a dragon, he wouldn't have died here. At this moment, Long Yin laughed, little girl, you are indeed interesting. You have such a great ambition to become a dragon. No wonder the emperor you, Su Qianni with a brilliant mind, would make a plan with you, and completely give up the throne. Long Mian was surprised. Su Qianni is the Emperor Yudi. According to the magic power, Long Chou cannot inherit the throne. He wants to break the engagement with me. Because of this, Long Mian, so that he doesn't have to sow discord, they had already agreed to end their alliance. Hearing this, Long Yin was shocked and laughed. He said the only way to lift the curse is to strip the dragon blood vein. Then around Long Mian, there were red circles vibrating. When the attack was about to hit Long Mian, only to see an explosion causing a red fog. When the fog cleared, Long Mian was protected by a strong shield. The shield was made by Su Qianni. At this moment, he has drawn his sword and slashed at Long Yin. Su Qian said while cutting that he was Sun Long or Long Chou. Or Long Chou. Even if he becomes a wandering ghost, he would still get the world. Long Yin said, since your highness has such awareness, you should know the consequences. Then I have to kill you all together. A fire attribute attack came, which was blocked by Long Yin with water. And after the water evaporated, a thick fog rose. After Long Yin dispelled the fog, they found a large amount of mudslide coming. Long Yin and Long Miu also took the opportunity to escape. Xiaolongnu asked if she should go and catch them back. Long Yin rubbed Xiaolongnu's head and said no need. Let the little brother and sister roll in the red dust. Roll around in the red dust for a while. In this world, once a woman and a man who have turned into dragons sign a contract, they will share their lives. Su Qianni found that Long Yin didn't chase them, and they stopped. Long Mian said luckily, our nylon roll bought us some time, but he worried that the people of the 8 countries would be discovered. Su Qianni told him not to worry, because Long Yin would not attack ordinary people. We just need to leave here as soon as possible, to avoid implicating them. Long Mian said, could she sneak back to say goodbye to Princess Jimu? As she didn't know when she could come back. Su Qianni told him it was definitely not possible. If they get involved with you again, it would not be good for them. But Long Mian still wanted to go back. Can't she just be careful? Su Qianni said seriously at this time. Sun Longxi is directly under the emperor, the most important institution in the empire. And Long Yin is the head of the Dragon Hunt division. His power is beyond your imagination. If Long Yin really wanted to kill me, there was no chance for us to escape. He was just testing us this time. Whether he was careless or had ulterior motives. As one of the top 3 dragon generals in the empire, his strength is definitely not just that. Only then did Long Mian give up the idea of going back. Then he said, "Thank you for saving me just now. For not letting Long Yen strip my dragon blood vein." Then he asked is there any other way to lift the curse? Su Qianni told him that Long Yen was lying to you. Dragon and dragon enemy are born and die together. They share power, but also share life. So far, there is no way to lift the spell, Su Qianni thought. After so many years, he requested to be demoted. He was careful and being cautious everywhere, but he still became a dragon enemy, cutting off his hope of becoming emperor. Long Mian was surprised that it couldn't be lifted. He wondered if what he said before were all just angry words. He not only couldn't become emperor, but also because of forming an alliance with me, the Black Dragon, and completely stood on the opposite side of the empire. At this moment, they both apologized simultaneously. They looked at each other. "You go first." Su Qianni apologized for himself. He had concealed his identity and purpose before. Long Mian said it's okay, and he could understand. Instead, he implicated you. Su Qianni said it's okay. Since we have formed an alliance, there is no such thing. You say. Long Mian squinted and smiled, saying you're such a good person, which made Su Qianni blush. Long Mian stood up, said that he had long heard that the emperor was cruel, and wars break out everywhere, and the people suffer. So you must become a good emperor. Su Qianni looked at Long Mian a little stunned, thinking that was right. This is not a turning point. At the top of the mountain we see the dawn. Since we have the same goal, we can form an alliance. It seems not a bad thing. Long Mian said at this time. You really look best when you smile. Su Qianni blushed slightly, embarrassed, and said, "Don't make trouble. To build a new dynasty, we still have a long way to go. The urgent matter is to let you level up quickly. You are just a newly awakened gray dragon. At least you need to be a third-level dragon to be able to compete with the dragon generals of other countries." Then he picked up a branch and drew a simple map on the ground. We need to leave the 8 kingdoms as soon as possible and avoid the pursuit of Yong from behind. Pass through Xuanyang Pass to Maogua, where is the richest state. The materials we need to upgrade should be found there. Long Mian said that Queen Jia has always hoped build the 8 kingdoms as prosperous as Maogua. Su Qianni also said that if he could become emperor, he would make the entire empire like Maogua. They looked at each other, and they both laughed simultaneously. One is a woman who just awakened as a dragon. A woman, a young emperor abandoned by the empire. They will have a new adventure next. The next episode will also bring a wonderful Maogua section. There is a legend in the land of China that, and the world will be in chaos. So whenever a woman awakens as a black dragon, she will be secretly ordered to be killed. Now Long Mian is the ominous black dragon. In Maogua, outside the cruiser gate, a man and a woman are running in a panic. They are Long Mian and Su Qianni, and there are many pursuers behind them. Suddenly Long Mian sensed danger, pushing Su Qianni away, and dodged the attack, and they rolled to the ground. There was a team of people in ambush in front of them. They were now surrounded. Long Mian said they could only fight, but Su Qianni sensed something was wrong. These two groups were not on the same side. One side was the dragon seeker ordered to kill the criminal, while the other side was from Yong Kingdom, asking for a life. The two groups started fighting first. Long Mian saw an opportunity, and controlled the river water to hit them, and took the opportunity to pull Su Qianni into the river. The two groups thought that Long Mian and his friends were fleeing downstream, but they were actually disguising themselves as Maogua Yaoi. Long Mian sighed that they finally got rid of them. Just then, a statue of a dragon-tailed human appeared ahead. This is the Yinglong statue. Maogua Yaoi had already knelt down. Long Mian was amazed at how magnificent the statue was. Then he asked Su Qianni next to him if he had seen Yinglong. Does this statue look like him? And why was this statue built here? At this time Su Qianni said, it should be related to the Yinchuan rebellion 13 years ago. It is said that 13 years ago, the rebels captured the capital of Zhou dynasty Gaojing. Yinglong Songyue finally emerged and flooded the world, and flooded Dafeng in one day. Then the whole Dafeng attacked Qingze and killed them. The Wei bloodline was erased. Yinglong erased the Wei family from history, and this Yanhua was built on top of a waterfall. to settle the mountains and rivers with the power of Yinglong. Long Mian sighed that he could turn things upside down and control life and death. Is this the power of Yinglong? But a blonde woman slowly opened her eyes and said, saying, you finally came. Long Mian, sitting by the stone and eating dry rations, thought, since leaving Xuanyang Pass, he has been hiding for more than half a month. He could finally have a proper meal. This is... Long Mian found a red dragon in Su Qianyi's hand. He asked what it was. Su Qianyi explained that it was a dragon scale letter. It's a unique communication spell of the Dragon Seeker. Only the recipient can see the content. It will be destroyed after reading. Hearing it's called Dragon Scale Letter. Would it be used for dragon scales? Su Qianyi smiled evilly and said yes. And he has almost used up the dragon scales this time. Long Mian was scared and trembled. He immediately changed the subject. You said you still have contact with the Xuanlong Society. Don't forget. Among the 6 groups of people chasing us along the way, 3 of them were from Xuanlong family. Su Qianyi said. He had spent 6 years in Xuanlong Temple. He still has some trustworthy friends. And he told me, the Xuanlong Temple has issued a kill order. Now every person in Xuanlong Temple knows our appearance, will kill us on sight, until we die. Long Mian said that the red catfish was so cruel. Su Qianyi explained, I learned that there was an unwritten order in Xuanlong Temple, that all awakened black dragons must be secretly killed. This woman is a black dragon, and the man is the emperor's son, and they need to kiss to improve their cultivation. Long Mian was puzzled. Why must the black dragons be eliminated? Su Qianyi seemed to know something, but only told him, the journey ahead will be more and more dangerous, so they must be more careful. Don't use the water rat spell easily, to avoid revealing your identity as a black dragon. Then he rubbed Long Mian's head, saying he would go ahead to check the feast. After Su Qianyi left, Long Mian thought, well, if he doesn't say, he won't. He would know sooner or later. Suddenly, someone shouted, catch him. Long Mian thought someone was chasing him, but turned around and found it was calling someone else. Long Mian saw a group of officers and soldiers beating a rocker, thinking if the man was a fugitive. At this moment, the man shouted, please, my mother is seriously ill. I just want to go home to see him one last time. But the officers didn't listen, and directly wanted to take him away. Just then, several water columns hit the officers and soldiers. Long Mian gave the poor man mouth to run away. At this time, the officers and soldiers still wanted to chase, but was held back by Long Mian with water, and directly gave them a faceplant. The officers shouted that it was you who did it. At this time, Su Qianyi also came back, seeing the situation was not good, and pulled him to run into the forest. At noon, in the deep forest of Maogua, Su Qianyi said, this is not good. Not only Xuanlong and Yong want to kill us, but maybe Maogua won't let us go. Long Mian was still proudly stroking his beard. He said, this is just an everyday act of chivalry. It's nothing to mention. At this time, Su Qianyi suddenly noticed something behind. He found a mountain grass, and the root of this mountain grass is called Yanlu root. Su Qianyi asked him to eat it. It can help you increase your strength. Long Mian happily ate it, but unexpectedly, he immediately showed a painful face. Why didn't you tell me? This thing is so bitter. But he still ate it all to become stronger. At this time, Su Qianyi said it was time. Long Mian obediently came to his side. Su Qianyi slowly took out a jade bottle and poured out a black pill. This is the unique pill used by the Dragon Seekers. It can quickly enhance the dragon's mana in the Grey Dragon stage, but only the dragon can take it, transform the power, and then pass it on to the dragon. The way to transfer is kissing. The two were surrounded by golden energy. This is Su Qianyi's Jialongju. In the afternoon, in the deep cave of Maogua Forest, they found that it had been hollowed out. It turned out to be the unique Maogua Flower Stone mine, which can be used to make pills, to help the dragon enhance its strength. But there was no one here. It should have been emptied. Since ancient times, dragons were trained by the Imperial Dragon Hunt Temple, and then sent to the states. 50 years ago, the imperial court's control over the states weakened. They began to secretly train dragon craftsmen. Although each state wanted to buy the secret of training dragon craftsmen, but they are not comprehensive. For example, this neglected white flower stone. Although it is inconspicuous, but the pills made from it, its effect is several times better than that of gold flower stone. Although all the golden flower stones here have been picked, there are still many white flower stones. It shows that Maogua's information is wrong. No wonder Maogua has 15 ancestral dragon generals. The highest level is only a dragon. At this time, Su Qianni remembered. There might be a strange thing growing near the Shuang stone. Suddenly, he heard a scream coming from behind. The dragon generals were protecting themselves with vines. But there was no one around to attack them. But it was really hitting them. Su Qianni and the other person hid behind the stone and watched. Said anxiously that they couldn't hold on anymore. Do you have a way to save them? At this time, Su Qianni explained. The attack on them was from the cat that ate cat mint. You used the water spell to break their invisibility. Long Mian closed his eyes to sense the water veins here. Several streams surrounded the two dragon generals. And the four miraculous cats also appeared. The woman saw the golden cat's true form. She immediately used the spelled Song Tung Jiedo, trapping the four golden cats. At this time the man beside said in Yao, "Kill these beasts quickly." The woman was hesitant. Suddenly a voice came from a distance saying, "Wait. Su Qianni." They said that the golden cat's nature is not violent. Since they have stopped, it's better to appease them. Please show mercy. Then Long Mian waved his hand to send them away with water. At this time, a voice came from the vines behind the dragon generals. There was a beautiful woman in the vine. She was the princess of Maogua Yin. Then he slowly walked towards Long Mian. The two thanked them for saving themselves. Then they introduced these two as the Maogua dragon generals. And the woman's name is In Yao. And the man is Duan Qinglu. And Yao found that Long Mian still had injuries, and immediately helped him treat the wound. Long Mian looked at In Yao's gentle appearance. He felt like Duyu's sister. He asked Su Qianni, can he learn such a healing technique? Su Qianni said of course. If you want to go in the direction of healing. Long Mian thought for a moment. He decided to go in the direction of combat. At this time, Duan Qinglu noticed that Long Mian and his friends looked familiar. He flipped through the wanted notice and found that they were wanted criminals of the empire. Duan Qinglu took out the wanted notice, which clearly stated that Hei Long was wanted, and evil insects. The dragon god's death. 8 countries fell. Jin was offered 1,000 gold coins. Long Mian looked at the wanted notice. His own burned down city, and the innocent citizens who died unjustly. Could their grievances only get such a comment? Long Mian grabbed the wanted notice and shouted Pingzhi Ka Pobu. Can be easily erased. Was Yong trying to deceive the world? Or was it the emperor's order to destroy Bago? Seeing this, Duan Qinglu, he was also confused. Su Qianni behind him thought, the wanted notice really exceeded my expectations. Although he was not sure if it was really his brother's order. But it's hard for the king of Yong to have such. He pulled out his sword and slashed at Princess Yin directly, saying that since his identity had been exposed, today's matter can't be easily resolved. Yin Tianran thought she was going to die on the spot, but Su Qianni was actually to offset the attack behind. It turned out that there was a golden cat behind Yin Tianran. Su Qianni asked him to get out of the way. The golden cat had gone berserk, and then called out Long Mian. In this way the two cooperated. Su Qianni was the main attacker. Long Mian used water to send him to the other side. The broken heart deer was still aggressive. Why not kill him? What if he comes back? Long Mian replied with surprise. Cats are not good at water. It can't come back. At this time, Yin Tianran slowly walked over, asking Duan Qinglu to be polite. It seems that there is another secret in the wanted notice. I won't embarrass you too. Then, Duan Qinglu was asked to give the just obtained. As a gift, the golden cat can be invisible. Is because it ate this thing. Wuhan has the reputation of being a hub of 9 provinces. And Long Mian's destination Maogua has the reputation of being the gateway to 10 countries. Su Qianni and Luo Jingxian. Su Qianni and Wang Yanpiamren came to Maogua together. Long Mian sighed that it was so prosperous. Suddenly, he saw a group of beauties on the roadside, were dancing gracefully. He wondered what they were dancing. Yin Pianran explained, the blessing day is approaching. They are preparing for the dance of the dragon god. After the Yinchuan rebellion 13 years ago, Maogwa also suffered from floods. People were suffering. Fortunately, the holy dragon subdued it, which allowed Maogwa to get through the crisis. So the Father King designated the day as the Blessing Day to commemorate the grace of the Son of Heaven and the Holy Dragon. So at this time, if they see people worshipping the dragon god, the dragon general will cast a spell to encourage them. Then In Yao raised her hand to cast a spell. The flowers on the roadside began to bloom, and the people all knelt down. Su Qianni sighed. It seems that in Maogwa, the people's admiration for the dragon god is deeper. Seeing this scene, Long Mian thought, thinking that if the 8 kingdoms still existed, it would have become so prosperous. Then she took out the extremely bitter rock willow root and took a bite. Next morning, in the Gongqing Hall of Maogwa King, Long Mian and Yun came together with Yun, came before the king of Mao Yunlang. I heard that the princess was in danger in the forest yesterday. Thanks to your help. I'm very grateful. Maogwa needs people like you with outstanding abilities. I wonder if you two would like to stay in Maogwa? I can reward you with the position of captain. At this moment, a voice came from the side, saying wait. A pair of dragon generals came out. When the woman saw Su Qianni and Su Qianni, she punched them directly, saying that Su Qianni, the 6th brother of the emperor, it's your bad luck to be caught by me. And Mao King was also shocked. He was actually the emperor's bait. Long Mian wanted to help, but was directly stopped by his dragon Ugly, and with just one hand, he made Long Mian immobile. At this time, Su Qianni also noticed Long Mian. After several rounds, the two sides were evenly matched, but Sister Ro hadn't seen him for many days, and her martial arts have regressed. No wonder it's the Dragon Hunt Division. The first thing. At this time, King Mao suddenly stood up, saying wait a moment. Please listen to me. And both sides stopped. These two have saved my only daughter's life. Since they have entered the palace, they are my honored guests. Of course, you two have come all the way from the capital. You still need to supervise the project, which is quite hard. Pass the order. In addition to the 100 treasures given to you before, I'll add 10 more stone bullets, golden flowers and gold powder. I hope you can during their stay in Maogwa. Show mercy. The man said with a smile that we were ordered to supervise. We really don't have time to manage the dragon hunt's kill order, and have never seen the emperor and the ominous black dragon. Long Mian was surprised that there was such a thing, operation, but he was still scared. Although Qianni is on par with that senior, but he was no match for Long Chou. If the Mao King hadn't intervened, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this time, Mao Wang invited Long Mian to inspect the progress of the banquet. Su Qianni and Luo Mian couldn't refuse, so they followed him. This beautiful and moving statue was once admired by thousands of people in China. In the vast world, on this 1,000-foot plain, it was carved from a mountain rock. Long Mian sighed at the incredible grandeur of the palace. Then he looked back. 2 stone carriers were carrying heavy stones. When he wanted to say something, Su Qianni told him not to say anything. Then In Yao hurried over from behind and accidentally bumped into Long Mian. He saw that Sister In Yao seemed not in good spirits, so he asked her. In Yao said it was nothing. Then she took out the Maogwa specialty Longjiao crisp and let Long Mian try it. Meanwhile, Sun Beek said on the other side, I heard that the Mao Wang had a baby yesterday. I just wanted to congratulate him. But the Mao King just stopped for a moment. He felt exhausted, so he returned to rest. Father is weak. And the young emperor. It seems that the burden on you, the princess, is not light. Yin Pianran said awkwardly. Thank you for caring about my father and the young emperor. He wanted to take 2 more generals to the next place, but Baikeru refused. They could just wander around by themselves. Besides, he was afraid that he couldn't help but act. Su Qianni awkwardly replied, You're so ruthless. Then they both left. Just then, there was a noise coming from behind. It was a soldier, was whipping an elderly man who had fallen to the ground. Yao Yi, a young man, swayed to protect the old man, saying please don't hit. My father is just exhausted. But the officer kept beating him. Yao Yi on the side finally couldn't stand it anymore, and started booing, saying that we haven't slept for 3 days. This is not giving us a way to live. Long Mian was shocked at this moment. The old man was beaten to death. 此时, Duan Chenglu was about to suppress the riot over there. Suddenly, countless golden thorns shot over. Several people fell into the river. The rest all knelt down and begged for mercy. Duan Chenglu looked at these golden thorns and looked back tremblingly. It turned out that a pair of dragon generals came. The man is Gui Tianzhao, 30 years old with earth attribute, and the woman is Xiao Ning, 21 years old dragon, and attribute is gold. Gui Tianzhao shouted, "What's going on?" which scared Duan Chenglu to kneel down. Su Qianyi also saw Gui Tianzhao at this time. He was the leader of Maogua Dragon General. Suddenly Long Mian said, "Just now, it was the officers and soldiers who killed the workers." "But you killed the workers." Gui Tianzhao replied that for the development of the country, everyone should know their place and responsibility. Weak and mediocre people should obey orders and double the effort. If you can't do this, then there is no meaning of existence. Of course, I don't expect a gray dragon can understand the truth. Long Mian wanted to say something more, but was stopped by the princess. General Gui's words are surprising. Cruel decrees are like a cart pulled by a wind horse. Will crush everyone, including those who try to drive it, including you. Quickly order the ships below to rescue the drowning. From now on, laborers are allowed to rest when extremely tired. Take the soldier who just caused death down, awaiting judgment. Long Mian thought it was great. The princess was indeed on his side. Then he pulled the princess and pointed at Gui Tianzhao, saying that there is also that guy, and make sure he is punished too. Long Mian was too naive. He thought that the princess would punish Gui Tianzhao severely, the murderer. But how could she punish Gui Tianzhao? To punish the general of his own country. Gui Tianzhao walked over slowly, saying that civilians are stupid and blind, unless they see blood, and the dragon won't learn a lesson. It's my duty to keep them in line. Long Mian shouted, "The dragon should protect the people. How can you kill innocent people?" At this time, Su Qianyi pulled Long Mian away to calm him down. Then he said to the princess and General Gui, "Long Mian is a commoner. He is young and inexperienced, and is inevitably excited. Please forgive him." Hearing this, Long Mian was surprised. Why should he apologize? Don't you think he did nothing wrong? Su Qianyi asked him to be obedient. Now is not the time to argue about this. At this moment Long Mian thought, seeing someone suffer innocently, but not the time to seek justice for them. When someone abuses lonely, but not to punish and restrain him, just because I'm clumsy and blunt, I will never find the right time. Long Mian opened Su Qianyi's hand, and then told the princess that he didn't want to stay here. "Where can I be happy?" Yin Pianran awkwardly said the East City Wharf, next to Yin Chuncheng. "Where is the most prosperous market? You can go there." After hearing that, without waiting for Qianyi to continue, and had already run away, Su Qianyi looked at Long Mian's back, thinking that she was indeed not suitable for such occasions. It's better to let her go and relax. Long Mian didn't know Su Qianyi's good intentions. Rashness cannot solve the problem. What he needs to do now is to find out the details of General Gui. Meanwhile, on the bustling street, Long Mian walked dejectedly. Only then did she think carefully. Just now, Sister Wang Nu seemed to be a little afraid of General Gui. I'm really swallowing my pride. Am I really swallowing my pride? Or is there another plan? Thinking of this, Long Mian felt a sharp headache. Suddenly a shopkeeper said, "Girl, is this your first time in Yingchun? Come and see the special wuhua stones here." Long Mian immediately looked at the stones, without listening to the shopkeeper, so he took one randomly. Did he want to apologize to him? Although Qianyi taught me to think twice before acting, and act after careful consideration, but he just couldn't swallow his breath. So he crushed the wuhua stone in his hand. The shopkeeper was about to reach out and hit Long Mian, but saw his dragon eyes, and hurriedly said, "Lord Long, if you like them, these are all for you." Long Mian put down a gold shell and left. He wondered if people here were so afraid of dragons. Speaking of which, the dragon beside the general was just a flood dragon. Qianyi was not afraid of the dragon with the dragon silk. Why? Even if it's a dragon, I can't beat it. I'm still too weak. Suddenly, he was bumped into by a masked man. Long Mian saw him rush into an alley in a panic. And then a large number of officers and soldiers followed, saying not to let the group of Yiming escape. Long Mian heard Yiming. Was he a child and going to be enlisted? I wanted to follow him to see. Suddenly, a group of people were talking behind him. It turned out that the boy was deliberately leading the officers and soldiers away, thinking that these people were the migrant workers who escaped from Yimba Palace City. Thinking of this, he followed them. Long Mian was suddenly attacked as he left the alley. In the next episode, Long Mian will learn new settings. Long Mian learns that to become a youngling, he needs to eat his own dragon ugly. Just a few minutes ago, after dodging several attacks quickly, he grabbed a stick. At this time, the attacker realized he was a dragon, and the nearby people also picked up sticks and rushed towards Long Mian. He thought that although these people were not his opponents, but they might accidentally hurt them. Long Mian said he was Yu, a Chinese from Yuji, and had no malice towards them. Suddenly, a man wearing a mask said to stop, and he was the one Long Mian saved earlier. Long Mian remembered him. It's you. The man said his name was Jipingduo. Thank you, benefactor. Long Mian smiled and said, don't be so polite. Just call me Long Mian. He just witnessed your escape from the officer's arrest, so he followed out of curiosity. Then, Jipingduo invited Long Mian to their base camp. He remembered that he had to escape because his mother, that he wanted to escape. So he asked about the current situation. Jipingduo said slowly that my mother had passed away. My family used to live in a small village outside Incheon. A year ago, my father and I were forced to work. Less than half a year, my father died of exhaustion on the construction site. Later, I learned that my mother was seriously ill. I begged the public several times, but they wouldn't let me go back. When I escaped home, it was too late. The farmer next to me heard this. Didn't know what to say. Jiping clenched his fists and said, he said that all this made me realize, only by fighting can we change our destiny. So those of us who escaped formed this Ping'an army. Long Mian saw this scene. He remembered when he swore to take revenge on Yong Kingdom and shouted, yes, we must fight. At this moment, they also arrived at the base camp. Long Mian looked around, surrounded by shabby things built up. Many people had different degrees of injuries. The smell of pickles was also in the air. He sighed that this was the most prosperous and rich Maogwa, and the poorest and cruelest Maogwa. Suddenly, Long Mian saw a familiar figure in the crowd, and it was Sister Nyao. She was surprised to see Long Mian here. Seeing Long Mian rushing over, she immediately prepared for defense. Zishuhu stood in front of in front of Jipingduo. Jipingduo told her not to worry. Miss Long is not a bad person. I escaped from Yimba alive before, thanks to Miss Long's help. And Yao and Jipingduo were childhood sweethearts. Ping'an's name comes from their Ping and Yao. When Long Mian heard this, was confused. Could the dragon fall in love with someone other than Long Chou? It turned out that in Yao's Long Chou Duan Chenglu was married, and she and Jipingduo were engaged. Long Mian couldn't help feeling sad. It turns out that Long and Long Chou are not destined. I thought. Suddenly, Yao took Long Mian's hand, asking him to come and drink their wedding wine. Then she took Long Mian into the house. He lost his appetite during the meal. Long Mian suddenly thought of Sister Yao. Didn't you go to accompany Xuanlong to inspect the project? Only then did he realize that he had lost them. Thinking of this, Yao said she would be scolded by Duan Chenglu again. Long Mian said happily that it's okay. I often get into trouble. Qianni would never really be angry, but Yao was actually forced to sign the conspiracy with Duan Chenglu. Long Mian was surprised. Why did he always think that? The relationship between Long and Long Chou must be very harmonious, because the dragon generals in the 8 countries are harmonious. It turns out that there are many class systems in Maogwa, although the people all respect the dragons, but the upper class Shangui seemingly don't. Most of the dragons in Maogwa come from common families. After they show signs of awakening, they will be sent to the dragon smoked office, waiting to make a deal with the dragon. And the dragon partners in Maogwa must be the descendants of officials or nobles, and the dragon will be selected according to family status. Not only that, as the dragon's rank increases, the dragon tamer's control over the dragon will become stronger. At this time, Long Mian was shocked. And he also learned that, when ascending from a horned dragon to a hard dragon, it must eat its dragon attendant. Long Mian saw Qianni and another woman whispering, "Just a few minutes ago, Long Mian learned that to become a Ying Long, he must eat his dragon pet." Long Mian thought Qianni never mentioned this to him. What was he thinking? No, he must ask for clarification. Long Mian returned to the Maowang Palace and came to Su Qianni's room. She suddenly heard the voice of the princess sister. Thinking it was so late, is he still chatting with Qianni? And it seemed that they mentioned Queen Jia just now. However, they were talking in official language. Long Mian felt it was too profound and couldn't understand it at all. He pouted his lips. He thought he would wait for them to finish talking before finding Qianni. At this time, Yin Tianran actually said she hoped that to be with someone like Su Qianni often, but his father intends to betroth him to Gui Tianzhao. Long Mian outside the general's door felt that Gui Tianzhao is not worthy of the princess. It would be nice if Qianni could help. But Su Qianni said mercilessly that General Gui is the head of Maogua's dragon generals, has a promising future. The king made this arrangement. It must have considered a lot for the princess. Yin Pianran replied, Gui Tianzhao's attitude towards Xiaoning is really bad, which shows his character. You saw the conflict today. It will only get worse in the future. And Gui Tianzhao has trained for 10 years, is only at the dragon stage. At this time, Su Qianni said, the way Long Chou and dragons get along is indeed different. While he advocated mutual respect, when Long Mian heard this, she thought Qianni did exactly that. Thinking about it, he didn't tell her that to be a winged dragon, he needs to eat Long Chou. Perhaps he didn't want to crush my dream. And I hurried to question. Seemed a bit of a fuss. When Long Mian was about to leave, she found the princess suddenly stood up and sat next to Su Qianni. This conversation, I felt that I hit it off with Mr. Su at first sight. Now in this situation, Su Gongzi should stay in Maogua. With my father and I's support, you will surely achieve great things in the future. Yin Tianran saw Su Qianni. After drinking the fruit wine, she slowly stood up and whispered into his ear. I know your concerns, since the dragon scale case has strictly prohibited the dragon from inheriting the throne. But the succession of thrones in various countries has no such taboo. Long Mian, who was watching all this from outside, he wondered what the princess was trying to do. Then he cast a spell to control the water in the bowl. He made a face in front of Yin Tianran. Only a scream was heard. Su Qianni immediately stood up and scolded, "Who is it?" Seeing the water stains on the ground, knowing that it was Long Mian who was playing tricks. So he stood up and asked Long Mian to come out. He pushed the door open awkwardly and said, "Hee. Qianni, how did you know it was me?" Su Qianni asked him to apologize to the princess. Long Mian said angrily, "I thought the princess was going to bite your ear, so I just wanted to scare her." I never thought of this reason from Long Mian. At this time, Wang Envy Yin Pianran was embarrassed. Su Qianni told him not to talk nonsense. Long Mian said angrily that the princess didn't blame me. Why are you so fierce? Thinking back to the conflict with Gui Tianzhao before, he stopped me. I was just a little angry, but he blamed me because of the princess. But I felt so sad. At this moment, Long Mian's eyes were full of tears. Yin Pianran tried to smooth things over, saying, Miss Long didn't mean it. I have no love. How could I blame her for such a small matter? It's late at night. I'll take my leave. Su Gongzi, you should go to bed early too. After the princess left, you said you were reckless and impulsive, which is really worrying. Long Mian turned back angrily. You said I was brave and tenacious before. This made Su Qianni confused. He thought it was just a polite compliment to encourage you. Did you take it seriously? At this moment, Su Qianni said that no matter what, Wang Nu and I were discussing business. Not only hid behind the door to eavesdrop, but also used magic to tease the princess, which is really snobbish. Moreover, he is likely to inherit the throne. And when you meet General Gui again, you need to restrain your temper. He is a minister of the king. Even the princess has to give him some respect. Long Mian shouted as soon as he heard Gui Tianzhao. He has already caused great anger. Pingyan will definitely defeat him. In the next episode, the conflict between Long Mian and Su Qianni will escalate again. Unexpectedly, Su Qianni used a spell to lock Long Mian. Just now, Su Qianni heard Pingyan Jun's doubts. How Long Mian knew all these. After learning the situation, Qianni told him. He had heard of these people. They evade the law and become bandits. If they are allowed to do as they please and disturb the country, you are simple-minded and being used without knowing it. Don't contact them in the future. Long Mian retorted. They are just a group of desperate people. As the leader, upright and resourceful, I won't be like you, the royal nobles, indifferent to the suffering of the people. Then he rushed out the door and prepared to help them. Su Qian saw that Long Mian didn't listen to advice. He saw him start to form seals in his hands and said, Long Sui Chou Zhuan, and you obey orders. Long Mian, stop. At this time, Long Mian felt like he was locked, and his body couldn't move at all. He felt this emptiness and powerlessness. He remembered what Sister and Yao said before. As the dragon ascends, Long Chao's control over the dragon will become stronger. Could this be the absolute control of Long Chou over dragons? At this moment, Qianni also felt that he was too impulsive and immediately released the control. Long Mian fell to the ground with a plop. He slowly stood up and said, I thought we are different from them. Although I am a commoner, and you are the prince. Although I don't understand your thoughts and plans, and you don't agree with my criminal practices, but we trusted each other and relied on each other. I never thought you would do this to me. At this time, Su Qianni stepped forward and grabbed Long Mian. Sorry, I was too impulsive just now. I shouldn't have used the dragon lock spell on you. At this moment, Long Mian had already cried into tears. He broke free from Su Qianni's hand, asking what the dragon locking spell was. It was a spell used by Long Chou to control dragons, and casting this spell will greatly consume Long Chou's power. Su Qianni continued, I always thought that this secretary shouldn't exist, so I never mentioned it to you. But this time I'm really worried that you will be involved. You are simple-minded and rashly contact with the rebels, and it's easy to be used by others. Long Mian was about to say something. Su Qianni went forward and hugged Long Mian. We met in distress, and we supported each other to survive. But the path to plotting power was full of dangers, dragging you into these cruel disputes. I'm already very sorry, so I appreciate your full help, and I hope to protect you as much as possible. Leaning on Qianni's chest, Long Mian thought. He had been causing trouble all the time. But Qianni feels guilty towards me. You want to protect me. How do you view the relationship between dragons and enemies? Su Qianni replied that dragons and dragon enemies share life and death, share dragon benefits, mutually beneficial, and mutually restrictive. On this basis, it can develop into relatives, friends, and lovers. But Long Mian didn't want to hear this. Then he asked if he would help me become a Yingluo. What he thought was that, as long as he easily tells the truth about the promotion, he would not hold it against him. He wouldn't eat him. Su Qianni firmly said she would help him. But it won't be easy to become a Yinglong. Seeing that he still refused to tell him the truth, although he didn't, lied to me, but just refused to say. Then he said, forget it. Let it be. I'll go back to my room to sleep. Su Qianni looked at Long Mian's leaving back. She thought that this dependence was like a fledgling, was too sensitive and fragile. He knew that Long Mian had absolute trust in him, but he also asked me to be completely open. Sorry, I can't do it at present. A few days later, Su Qianni came, asked Long Mian to attend the Hat King's banquet. He said he was changing clothes. After a long time, Long Mian appeared in a brand new outfit. I have to say, this outfit is really beautiful. Su Qianni praised it, saying it looked good, making Long Mian blush, and shyly said it's getting late. Let's go quickly. But unexpectedly, she accidentally stepped on her skirt, and she fell face first. Su Qianni said awkwardly, there will be many more formal occasions in the future. Get used to wearing long dresses. At this moment, Long Mian blushed, stood up and said, I'm not going. When you fall on your face in front of the person you like, what should you do? Su Qianni squatted down and said, why are you being stubborn again? Long Mian said he didn't. He thought it was okay not to go. Then you stay here and continue to practice the dragon secret. Remember not to run around and strive to master the second level of the heart method. Near Tsueli. After Su Qianyi left, Long Mian stood up happily. It was just that he fell on purpose. Qianyi is such a fool. He was easily fooled by me. How dare you look down on me? I am also very resourceful. In such a good time, I don't want to attend the banquet. And I have already cultivated Lin Jin. I'm going to do something more interesting. Su Qianyi didn't listen to what he said just now. At this moment in the Longquan Palace, Long Mian came to find sister and Yao to rent the Jixiang Alley together, but found that there were many people in the room. They seemed to be talking about giving up. Long Mian asked, "What are you giving up?" And Yao replied that it was nothing, just talking about giving up my engagement with Ping. However, when she said this, she was already in tears. Long Mian was puzzled why. A few days ago, didn't you invite me to your wedding? You also said it was the last wish of Ji Ping's mother. It turned out that when Yao was 7, her hometown was hit by a flood, which killed her parents. Ji Ping's family took her in and treated her like her own daughter. And Yao and Ji Ping were childhood sweethearts and fell in love. Ji Ping's mother always hoped that they would grow up and get married soon. However, at this moment, Yao said they might never get married. Is this fate? Long Mian squatted down and asked why. Long Jiang said beside, it's because Duan Qinglu doesn't agree with Yao's marriage. And the Maogua dragon can't, because of a commoner, disobey his dragon master's orders. And the marriage of the Maogua general requires Gui's approval. Duan Qinglu has no intention of reporting my marriage. And in my position, General Gui probably won't see me either. Long Nian heard the word fate. He thought of the day when his country was destroyed. If I had accepted my fate that day, I would have died by now. Then he slowly came to Yao's ear, saying that if you and Ji Ping accept your fate, then there would be no Ping and King. Listen to me. Life is better than sex. Then he pulled Yao and rushed out of the room. Meanwhile, in the palace banquet hall, several women in pink were dancing gracefully. King Mao laughed and said, "Grand feast in Jiangcheng. And the Black Fox is happy. It's a double blessing." The courtiers beside him were whispering, "I heard that there are rebels calling themselves Ping and Jun. King Mao should be careful. Don't make any mistakes during the ceremony." King Mao laughed and said that the number of our dragons is the envy of all countries. Such insignificant people are not to be feared. At this time, Su Qianyi stood up and praised Maogua's governance. Princess Yempianren also stood up to toast him. After listening to Su Qianyi's words, I've benefited a lot. Seeing them like this, the king of Mao, he smiled and said that you two have such similar temperaments. I wonder if you are married. What do you think of Pian Ran? At this time, Su Qianyi stood up and said that Wang Yanvi was bright and dignified and intelligent. Although Qianyi's parents have passed away, but my elder brother is still alive. The marriage still needs the eldest brother's decision. It has to be said that Su Qianyi is good at speaking. Look at his words. However, Yipeng Gui was not happy. The elder brother's decision is just an excuse. The monarch invited you and Long to the banquet, but you attended alone. Do you not take the monarch seriously? Or you can't control your dragon at all? The two onlookers immediately became onlookers. However, no one can compare with Su Qianyi. Long Mian adopted me today. I have already apologized to King Mao. The eldest brother is like the father. In protecting the dragon. From the general's words, he is dissatisfied with the ethics, nor the power of the dragon. Gui Tianzhao was helpless and unable to refute. He suddenly found someone sneaking around outside. And the two people outside were Long Mian and Yao. Long Mian broke into the hall of Mao Wang without permission. This move directly slapped Su Qianyi in the face. Gishianshao shouted, "Long Mian, how dare you?" He not only lied about being unwell to avoid the Saint Demon, but also lurked in the water to spy on us. What is your intention? At this moment, the golden thorn was hanging in front of them. And Yao knelt down with tears in her eyes and said, I am the young dragon captain and Yao. And Yao has something to report to the general. I would never disturb Yanning. At this moment, Long Mian said, I was indeed unwell this morning. I really didn't want to disappoint Mao's kindness. So I came here after feeling better. Su Qianyi was relieved. He didn't expect that he would repeat the words. You've made progress. Mao Wang laughed, and Long Girl was invited to attend. The way is a bit novel, but it's not a big deal. General Gui doesn't need to pursue it anymore. Please take your seat. Gui Tianzhao's dragon also withdrew the thorns. Mao Wang asked in Yao, what's the matter that you're in such a hurry to see General Gui? Long Mian thought that Mao Wang was reasonable and wise, and would definitely uphold justice. And he seemed to give Qianyi face. It might be better for me to handle this matter. With Mao Wang's reputation, Sister Yao wants to fulfill her engagement with her childhood sweetheart. But her dragon Satin Chenglu has repeatedly obstructed, refusing to report. So she had to do this. When Mao heard this, there was such a thing. Then he asked Gui Tianzhao what he thought. However, he said that since the records of Maogua, Long Chou often marries ordinary women, but there is no precedent for a dragon marrying a man. So he thought this marriage was inappropriate. Long Min was surprised at this ridiculous reason. At this moment Su Qianyi stood out. Your Majesty, according to Zhou Ji, Han Yan, a famous general of Rong Kingdom, was married to a famous doctor. They did good deeds and helped people, and became a story for generations. Thus, dragons can marry other dragons besides their ugly ones. Besides, Princess Yempian also agreed with Su. From my daughter's understanding of Xiaowei, her engagement is what her parents wish for. She and the man are in love with each other. Although there is no precedent in Maogua, but it's not impossible to create a precedent. After listening to what the two said, and thought it seemed reasonable. At this time, Long Mian and Yao thought it was great, but they didn't expect. The king asked the doctor beside him, what do you think of this matter? Dr. Chen said, the person Xiaowei marries, if his official position is higher than Qi Longqiu, there would be no order of respect. At this time, Yao quickly explained, her childhood sweetheart was just a commoner. The other doctor, hearing the word commoner, he felt even more unacceptable. And Xiaowei is the daughter chosen by the dragon god. With such a noble status, how could she marry a commoner? Long Mian couldn't hold it anymore. High is not good. Neither high nor low. What do you want? Su Qianyi tried to smooth things over for Wang. And Xiaowei is a dragon. But he was born a commoner. So marrying a commoner is not considered a downgrade. When Su Qianyi wanted to continue, Long Mian interrupted him. Enough is enough. When the dragon god chose the messenger, there was no distinction between high and low. Why do you judge the fate of the dragon? To decide the fate of the dragon? After saying that, Long Mian looked at Su Qianyi, thinking that even you agreed with this argument, which is so annoying. Su Qianyi was confused, thinking that I was helping you. Why are you tearing down your own people? At this moment, Gui Tianzhao shouted, Long, you're presumptuous. Maowen was almost dizzy by their quarrel. I'll back off. Let's discuss this later. However, Kanbei Kuro spoke up from the side. Maoren fears and despises Long Ji. Such a twist is really ridiculous. Then she pointed at the little girl of Longnian. Although you are a beggar of the empire, but I admire you for being a friend. You dare to speak out for justice. You are brave to speak out for the truth. You're courageous, and seeing someone fail makes me happy. I'm so happy. Su Qianyi was speechless. Let me speak my mind. According to the law of Xuanxi Long, as long as it doesn't violate the principles of morality, dragons can decide their own marriage, and no one can interfere. Seeing this, Mao Wang, and then smiled and asked General Gui to order Duan Changlu not to prevent Yao's marriage. After all, he couldn't afford to offend the dragon from the empire. And Yao and Ji Pingduo really held a wedding. In China, Maogua has a custom, that is, people hold nuts, circling around the marriage bed, and scatter the nuts into it. The custom is called an. And bed means spreading good wishes on the bed, and give it to the couple. Long Mian thought this custom was really interesting. Ji Pingduo came back from picking up the bride. They came to Long Mian immediately. Miss Long, please accept our bow. You are our savior, and helped us fulfill our long-cherished wish of getting married. Please be our honored guest to witness the ceremony, and you must accept this gift. Long Mian said she didn't do much. How could I accept your gifts? This gift is called love flower cake. which are made by the lover himself, which represents the most sincere and beautiful blessings. Meanwhile, I wish you can find your beloved. Long Mian thought that was the case, and happily accepted it. I will eat them all very seriously. I wish you a long life together, and be united forever. Long Mian looked at their happy smiles. He sighed that although there were no fancy clothes, and the ceremony was simple, this is the most sincere and touching wedding he has ever seen. Being their witness is a great honor. It was a great honor. After the wedding, in the Tsuewe Pavilion of Maogwa Palace, "This is for you." Su Qianyi wondered what it was. Long Mian was about to say love flower cake, but he thought twice and only said flower cake. Although you spoke too rudely at the palace banquet, but helping sister and Yao ask for a wedding, you did help a little, so you can have a piece of the happy cake of Ji-pin. When Su Qianyi heard the word Ji-pin, he thought of Ping and Jun. He questioned Long Mian whether and Yao was related to Ping Anjuan. When Long Mian heard that, he panicked. "I didn't say anything. Sure enough, I was right. Their names are too obvious. If I knew this, I shouldn't have helped you." Long Mian retorted. "What's wrong with the Pingan army?" Su Qianyi said that. Now the Pingan army has made Yin Chunqing panic. Such Yue intensification of contradictions will only lead to an irreversible situation. And some people are trying to petition the Demon King. The Queen and some officials advocated treating civilians gently. They need to endure for a while. At this time, Long Mian shouted that we should endure. And broken limbs you have to endure. Do we have to endure the loss of our family? Although Mao Wang is lenient, but he allows Gui Tianzhao to act lawlessly. If the persuasion of those powerful people was useful, why would Gui Tianzhao be so unscrupulous? So only resistance. There is still a chance. At this time, Su Qianyi asked Long Mian if he had thought. Mao's dragons will have no way to fight against the civilians. Otherwise, their situation will only get worse. Long Mian replied, "Most of the dragons in Maogwa are from commoners." Sister Yao said they would all support Ping and Jun. Su Qian said that. This will only cause division between dragons and dragon enemies. Long Mian shouted, "If you knew the truth of the Shin dragon, you will understand. The division is inevitable." Su Qianyi thought arguing like this was not the way. Then he grabbed Long Mian, asking him to calm down. "Trust me, okay? You are not used to the undercurrents of court power, nor do you understand the struggle between national powers. Then please continue to trust my judgment." Long Mian looked into Qianyi's eyes, and then shook off his hand. "You keep saying I should trust you, but in fact, you yourself have not paid from beginning to end. We agreed. I wish you to be emperor, and you help me become a Yingluo, but you've been hiding from me that eating Long Chou. To become a Yingluo, now you keep stopping me from helping Ping Anjuan. It's ridiculous that I just understand now. The kind of dragon that completely depends on you is what you need most. So all along, you've been deceiving me." Su Qianyi quickly said that. He had never intended to use you or hurt you. As for the matter of ascending to the Dragon King, I really don't want being eaten by you, but I didn't plan to hide it from you forever. I just thought it wasn't necessary to tell you too early. I thought it would avoid misunderstandings. It seems to have backfired. At this moment, Long Mian punched the pillar. "It's all excuses. I won't trust you anymore." The differences between Long Mian and Qianyi became more intense. Just now, Su Qianyi couldn't believe Long Mian said such hurtful words. "Do you know what you're talking about?" Someone suddenly interrupted their quarrel. It turned out that Wang Invi Yun Pianren had something urgent, and invited her to discuss. At this moment Su Qianyi thought, it's good to use this opportunity to separate and calm down. So he turned to Long Mian, and said he was going out. "Our situation is difficult now. You need to calm down." Long Mian replied in a low voice, "I'm calm, as long as you remember to keep Jipping's secret." After hearing that, turned to say he would. Long Mian thought he was going to discuss something with the princess. "Maybe you and him are from the same world, and I will prove that I am right." At night, Incheon City East. This is where Yiming is being held, but a fire broke out. It turned out that a prisoner started a collective rebellion. On the other hand, in the study of the king and princess of Maogwa, Su Qianyi was talking to Yin Pianran about something. It seems that Qianni asked the princess to help him investigate something. And Yin Pianran said that the matter had a result, and then asked him to look at this picture. Just then, someone hurried in to report. A detention center in the East Gate was set on fire, and they also clashed with the officers and soldiers. The monarch has sent someone to invite General Gui, but Yin Pianran thought that this evening, there was a disturbance at the Feast Project office. General Gui led all the dragon generals to handle it. The city is empty and chaotic. This is definitely not a coincidence. Su Qianni thought it was not a good situation. He hoped it wasn't the dragon sleep's doing. Yin Pianran turned around and said Su Gongzi will arrive soon. Let's go to the tower in the palace, where we can see the situation in the east of the city. At this time, Long Mian hurried to Jiping. I heard that you have risen up. Jiping asked him to come in first. Brothers. Now one of the detention centers has been captured, and all the imprisoned brothers have been rescued. The Longjiang has been successfully lured to Yanba. Brother Wang, you lead a team. Quickly seize the arsenal. You must take it within half an hour. Yao and Zhang, you take people to set up ambushes at these points to prevent the officers and soldiers from gathering. And Yao and other dragons will try to delay the return. When Gui Tianjiaoui enters our trap, it will be the time to kill. Long Mian thought. The city is empty. The Ping'an army's morale is boosted. The plan was so well planned. It shouldn't be a sudden uprising. But at this time, Jiping duo came over and interrupted Long Mian. Miss Long, why are you here? Long Mian said she saw a fire in the sky and worried about you. So she came over. She was puzzled. Isn't tonight your wedding night with sister and Yao? Why did you suddenly change your mind? Jiping duo explained. Because the poor in Zhijixiang were all coolies working for Yin Chunchung. They won't be conscripted. And these days, even the civilians here have been forcibly conscripted. Today as you left, soldiers suddenly broke in and arrested many neighbors. Even the elderly and children were not spared. In order to save people, he exposed his identity in a hurry. So he decided to revolt. Long Mian was shocked. Jiping reassured him. The neighbors are all fine, and the officers and soldiers were also dealt with. He drew his sword and he said slowly, since we have been cornered, we might as well take a gamble with our lives to fight for our future. The next episode will start a heart-wrenching moment, and Yao and Jiping will finally have a tragic ending. In the palace city, Jiping is leading the charge in person. Long Mian watched all this from the roof. The arsenal was hard to attack, so he led the charge himself. Long Mian thought he could only protect him secretly now. Qianya is still in the palace and can't expose her identity to implicate him. However, Long Mian found that Jiping was skilled in martial arts, and she doesn't seem to need her too much worry. Jiping is 10,000 times stronger than Duan Qinglu. How great it would be if in Yao's dragon revenge was Ji. However, at this time, Jiping found something wrong. The number of guards at the arsenal tonight is 30% more than usual. If she doesn't take the arsenal quickly now, she was afraid that someone would come and say, Yao San led people to retreat. Jiping was puzzled. Didn't I ask the third brother to stop the officers and soldiers? Why did they retreat? It turned out that there were more officers and soldiers than usual. They couldn't hold on. And fourth brother has sacrificed. At this moment, a large number of officers and soldiers appeared and had surrounded them all. Jiping said that the information was wrong. Don't panic and prepare to implement the backup plan. Suddenly, a vine wrapped around Jipingduo, helping him dodge the sword shot from behind. And this person was in Yao who came. He thought he was glad to arrive in time. However, Duan Qinglu also rushed over at this moment. And Yao originally planned to return alone, but was followed by Duan Qinglu. Long Mian thought, how sister and Yao came back from the feast so quickly. She couldn't openly disobey Duan Qinglu's orders now, so he could only secretly stop her spell. However, Yao ostensibly cast a spell to bind a soldier, but in fact, she was helping them avoid a fatal attack. But Duan Qinglu still saw through it, asking Yao what she was doing. At this moment, Jiping suddenly appeared and punched Duan Qinglu in the stomach and controlled her. Then she ordered the officers and soldiers below to retreat and let her people go. Although Duan Qinglu was very scared, but still said, "Ji Ping, you dare not kill me. If I die, your and Yao won't live either. General Gui will arrive soon. And Yao, you don't want General Gui to find out that your new husband is the leader of the bandits, right? Just listen to me." Before Duan Qinglu could continue, Ji Ping directly stabbed him in the thigh. "And don't try any tricks, or you'll suffer more than death. Do as I say." At this moment, Duan Qinglu was really terrified. He hurriedly asked the people below to step back. Let them go. Ping and army began to slowly retreat. The people below looked at Ji Ping. Ji Ping assured them, and she would execute the backup plan. Suddenly, Duan Qinglu saw a good opportunity. He punched Ji Ping in the abdomen, and then began to form seals. Long with Chou turns. You listen to my command, Xing and shaking technique. This is the fatal dragon binding spell for the dragon. Seeing the situation was not good, he jumped over to interrupt Duan Qinglu's spellcasting. Ji Ping duo also attacked from the side. However, just as he was about to catch him, a huge explosion was heard. Long Mian and Ji Ping were both blown away by the explosion. It turned out to be Duan Qinglu's life-saving magic weapon, Yan Baojia. Although the magic weapon is one time, but it can instantly consume the dragons, or the dragon power of Long Chou. Duan Qinglu laughed at this moment. Although I used one of my magic tools, but it's worth blowing up a bandit accomplice. Miss Long, you can go and claim the reward from General Gui. I'll at least level up 3 times this time. Thank you so much. The sleeping dragon on the ground. Duan Qinglu actually has such a powerful magic weapon. Damn it, I'm seriously injured and can't get up now. Even my lonely seems to have been drained in an instant. At this moment, Duan Qinglu looked at Ji Ping duo, who was also seriously injured. You're a mere commoner and a bandit. How dare you threaten me? Then he kicked him down. Ji Ping fell heavily from above. At this time, Duan Qinglu began to cast a spell to control An Yao, and commanded him to kill Ji Ping. At this moment, An Yao was already in tears. Since she couldn't resist, her hands also turned into dragon claws. The most painful thing in life is to kill the person you love the most with your own hands. And An Yao is now facing this kind of thing. Duan Qinglu shouted, "You lowly stupid woman. Go and kill him." Then he slid his fingers to cast a spell. At this moment, An Yao said, "I'm poor, low, and weak. But I'm not a puppet at your mercy. I have a soul, dignity, faith, and love, and I will never be at your mercy." An Yao transformed into a dragon, and used all her dragon power to resist. Duan Qinglu also spat out a mouthful of blood. An Yao, are you crazy? How dare you bite me back? Let you taste the power of the highest level dragon lock spell. At this moment, An Yao used all her dragon power to resist, turning the land upside down. The fainted sacrifices on the ground also slowly woke up. Long Mian, look. If it goes on like this, no, Sister An Yao will die of exhaustion. Then he gathered his last bit of dragon power and shot it out, cutting off Duan Qinglu's control. An Yao also fell heavily from the air, and turned back into human. He struggled to crawl to the person he loved the most. Ji Ping told her not to be silly. He was too badly hurt, and he couldn't live anymore. Kill me. But how could An Yao do it? Duan Qinglu above was still laughing. But in the next second, he spat out a mouthful of blood. An Yao, I have already mastered the highest level dragon lock curse. You can't break free. The more you resist, the stronger the power of the dragon lock curse. This is the absolute control of dragon tightening on dragons. An Yao, do it now. You just killed all the officers and soldiers here. Kill Ji Ping before General Gui arrives. Then no one will know that your husband, the bandit leader. I'll keep it a secret for you. I'll keep it a secret. Ji Ping asked her to do it, saying she was willing to die at your hands. An Yao tried to hold her hand and said she knew. I will be obedient. Ping Gu, you once said that if a pair of beloved eyes once cried for you, it's worth spending a lifetime for it. Then An Yao's hand turned into a dragon claw and slowly approached Ji Ping. But in the next second, what everyone didn't expect was that An Yao directly stabbed herself in the chest. Ji Ping looked at this scene in disbelief. Brother Ping promised me to live well. After saying that, An Yao fell directly into Ji Ping's arms, and a green mark appeared on her back. At this moment Long Mian noticed that and Yao was using all her dragon power to heal them. Long Mian shouted in Yao's sister, "You will die like this." Because the dragon and the dragon enemy share life. Duan Qinglu also felt something was wrong, and fell directly from the high platform. At this moment, Ji Ping was crying heartbroken, and Yao in her arms also began to slowly turn green. At this moment, a jade pendant with the words Ping floated out. This jade pendant was given to An Yao. Ji Ping gave to An Yao. She injected the last bit of dragon power into it, and a vine appeared on the jade pendant. At this time, An Yao turned into several green lights and disappeared. Ji Ping roared on Yao, "You can't do this to me." At this moment, Long Mian also ran over from the side, but he noticed that Ji Ping seemed to want to commit suicide. When the knife was about to be inserted, Long Mian just arrived and knocked her out with a palm. Looking at this scene, he couldn't believe it was all true. They just got married this afternoon, but now they are separated in life and death. Long Mian knelt helplessly on the ground and didn't know what to do now. He thought he must not let Ji Ping die. At least he must help sister and Yao fulfill her last wish. At this moment, Long Mian suddenly sensed someone coming, and quickly picked up the offering and hid. The person who came was Gui Tianzhao. The person beside reported as you expected. The bandits were forced to act early by your plan. The troops you deployed, and forced the bandits to this trap as planned. But our troops have been wiped out. But the bandits were nowhere to be seen. This is definitely not normal. Long Mian, hiding in a place, couldn't believe it. That everything was planned by Gui Tianzhao. Gui Tianzhao knew that. And Yao must be behind all this. The remaining Long generals were surprised if Yao betrayed. Gui Tianzhao said that he was not the only one who betrayed. The next episode will be even more tragic. This episode is the most tragic one so far. Gui Tianzhao looked at Duan Qinglu's body, saying that he deliberately let him go first. But he couldn't even control his own dragon, and even lost his life. He is so stupid. Long Mian was surprised when he heard that. He knew everything. Sister An Yao's death was also calculated by him. He must make Gui Tianzhao pay for his life. Suddenly, Gui Tianzhao sensed someone behind him, and shot the hiding place of Long Mian with a gun, only to find a mouse inside. It turned out that Long Mian was not here. He had already carried Ji Ping and run away. At this time, Gui Tianzhao slowly said, "Let's start sorting out our internal affairs now. I'll give you one last chance to wipe out all the fleeing bandits. I won't pursue the past dirty things of the bandits. I will not pursue them." Several dragon generals were shocked, and their Long Chou was also surprised that his dragon had betrayed him. At this time, Gui Tianzhao continued to say, "You stupid dragon generals. I deliberately delayed returning to the city, just to expose these traitors. Now make a decision quickly." At this time, one of them, Dragon General, said, "Even the usually gentle An Yao fought to the death. How could we live?" Then they rushed towards Gui Tianzhao. However, their dragon hatred was still here. He directly used the dragon curse to control them all. But they had enough of being controlled like this. With a loud explosion, one of the dragon realm directly chose to self-destruct. Then 2, 3, 4. They all chose to fight. One after another chose to commit suicide. In the void, the dragon cards that control each dragon all shattered one after another. In the sea of fire, there were corpses of dragons and dragons. The next morning, in Suitsue Pavilion of Maogua Palace, Long Mian pushed the door open in a daze. Su Qianni worriedly said, "Long Mian, you're finally back. Where did you go last night?" He cried out as soon as he saw Su Qianni, and threw himself into his arms in an instant. "Qianni, I was wrong. It's all my fault. Gui Tianzhao's poisoning plot. Many brothers of the Ping'an army died in vain. Sister An Yao also died. You did participate in what happened last night." Then he asked if anyone saw him at that time. Long Mian replied that those who saw him were dead. At this time, Su Qianni continued to say that I got the news. After this chaos, Maogua's dragon army will suffer heavy losses. Many dragons died by suicide. Now they only have 7 groups of dragon generals. At this time, Long Mian began to blame himself. Those were all Sister and Yao's friends. If I hadn't helped Sister Yao and Ji Ping get married, or I hadn't come to Maogua and didn't meet them, or if I hadn't been born in this world, perhaps none of this would have happened. I am indeed the ominous black dragon. Only bring disasters. It's all my fault. At this time, Su Qianni said that he had thought so too. But later someone told him a word. Fate is not determined by me. My life is in my own hands. Not by the sky. Only then did he understand that no one should not be born in the world, whether it's good or bad. It's not determined by others, but only by themselves. Then Qianni squatted down and stroked Long Mian, saying that it was their own choice. And it's a necessary price to fight against fate. So it's not your fault. But at this moment Long Mian was still sad. And they were separated in life and death. Su Qianni also told him a truth. Human life is not only measured by the length of time. You think their love is short. But in fact, and Yao has been forever fixed in the moment when they were most in love. At this moment Long Mian remembered when he advised Ji Ping to live well. And at that time Long Mian told him there was a way to end the cruel swaying of the Maogua people, which was what Qianni said earlier, to persuade Mao King to treat the people well. Thinking of this, Long Mian suddenly stood up. Qianni, please help Jiping. But Su Qianni thought he was going to rebel. At this time, Long Mian hurriedly explained, Qianni, it's not what you think. I misunderstood that you wanted to control me completely. So I said something very excessive. But now I understand. Suddenly, Su Qianni reached out and stopped him. Continue. Then he put his head on Long Mian's forehead. It turns out that between Long Yu and Long Chou, by putting their heads together, they could enter the stone sea, to see each other's thoughts and memories. Long Mian was surprised. Is this the source of Qianni's mind? I can really feel that. Qianni was full of apology at the moment. He promised not to force me again. He hoped to gain my trust. Long Mian turned into a gray dragon and felt this thought. And Su Qianni also learned that what Ji Pin said to Long Mian yesterday. It turns out that 15 years ago, Maogua also had a Baida who loved the people. But after the Yinchuan rebellion, everything was destroyed. Houses and fertile fields were all flooded, and the people were displaced. To relieve the disaster, Bai tried to raise food and money from nobles and rich merchants, only barely keeping the victims from starving to death. But Bai was executed on the charge of corruption. Then Gui Tianzhao's promotion led to the current situation. At this time, Su Qianni understood everything. Suddenly, he saw Long Mian's little face blushing, thinking if he didn't like it. Su Qianni quickly explained that this is the most effective way for dragons to communicate. We just didn't communicate well enough before. At this time, Long Mian shyly said no. I was just a little scared at first. He thought it was comfortable just now, and a little itchy. Qianni said it's good that he didn't. Some things will be told to you when the time is right. At this time, their conflict was completely resolved. But just now, Long Mian saw a few fleeting images. She wondered if they were all memories of Qianni. She could feel the sadness in just a moment. Suddenly, a voice came from outside. The door was pushed open, and the person who came was Mao Wang. I came at a bad time. Did I disturb you? Su Qianni replied. King Mao, you're joking. We were just chatting. Then Mao Wang talked about what happened last night. Last night the bandits rose, though they have been suppressed. But some remnants escaped, and they are hiding in the palace. Maybe they are hiding in the palace. Long Mian was shocked, thinking, could it be that Mao Wang knew I was involved in last night's events? The officers and soldiers I met in the arsenal that night, they were all dead. How did he know? Could he be testing me? At this time, Su Qianni put his hand on Long Mian's shoulder, and then asked Mao Wang, what do you mean? Last night the loss was heavy, and a large number of bandits escaped, and they must be cleared quickly. I wonder if you would like to accompany General Gui to Gu. Su Qianni beside him politely refused, rejected him politely. Mao Wang continued, I've heard that you've been speaking strangely recently, but I obeyed your orders. Why are you so polite? Long Mian was surprised. Was Mao trying to match Qianni with the princess? Su Qianni quickly said that rumors should not be taken seriously. Mao Wang angrily asked if Qianni looked down on Pian Ran. Su Qianni said, of course not. I know you have the ambition to rule the world. As long as you help me through this difficult time, I will help you achieve your goal. The farmer nearby was a little disappointed. He thought if Qianni could get Maogua's support, it would be very beneficial to him. But would Qianni really use the lives of Bai Qian and Ping'an to achieve his great cause? It's imaginable. Su Qianni directly rejected the Mao king because he couldn't be a sharp weapon in the hands of the king, and told him that if you continue to mistreat the people, it will only lose the hearts of the people. The king of Mao angrily rebuked him for being bold. You are still young. I'll give you one more chance. The current situation is chaotic. You should not go out and move around. And consider my advice carefully in Suiwei Pavilion. Otherwise, the emperor will know your disloyalty immediately. Then he ordered his men. Without his order, no one is allowed to leave this Suishi Pavilion. The first swordsmanship genius, Su Qianni. Why did he suffer such a serious injury? Just a few minutes ago, Long Mian and Su Qianni were both imprisoned by Mao Wang. But this small room couldn't hold him. Qianni told Long Mian not to worry. He and the princess had already thought of a countermeasure. Now let's find the sacrifice. Long Mian quickly asked, how can we get out? Qianni asked him to be quiet. He has his own way. Outside the courtyard wall of Suishi Xian, Long Mian and Su Qianni appeared here. It turned out that Su Qianni used a Yixing formation, leaving their fantasies, and then dug out through the dog hole with the map. This map dog escape was named by Su Qianni. Long Mian asked for it. Just then, a woman's laughter suddenly came from behind. When he looked back, it was Kanbei Ku and his Longqiu Baizhen. Kuro said with a sneer, who could have imagined? The imperial swordsman of the Xuanlong division would end up crawling through a dog hole to escape. At this moment, Long Mian still wanted to find an excuse to slip away. But how could they let Long Mian and Su Qianni go? At this time, Baizhen directly transformed his weapon and said, you are not allowed to go anywhere. Of course, if you really can't control your legs, then I have to help you abolish it. Then shot an arrow directly at Long Mian and Su Qianni. Although Baizhen always has a smile on his face, but she is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Su Qianni questioned them at this moment. You are the direct dragon generals of the Empire's dragon hunt. But now you obey the Maowang situation. It seems that they have been caught with a fatal handle. On the other side, Kuro ignored these. She directly used her hand, turned into a dragon claw, to attack Su Qianni. Qianni also blocked it with his sword, but the power was still, blowing him back several meters, and directly hit the stone. The next second, Kuro had already teleported in front of him. The battle between them was intense. But facing the serious Kuro, Su Qianni was doomed to lose. It was just a matter of time. At this time, Long Mian shouted to her, Kuro, you helped Sister and Yao at the palace banquet. Now she has been forced to death. You must want to help Long change his fate, right? Why are you helping the tyrant now? Long Mian spewed out several water sprays, trying to disturb his rhythm, to help Qianni escape, but under the high-frequency attacks of Kuro, which was useless. At this time, Su Qianni's mouth was already bleeding. What made them even more desperate was Kara's dragon show. Baizhen directly used his killing move, the snake sword. Su Qianni looked at this attack. He thought he could only use all his dragon power to block this attack. Long Mian saw the crisis here, wanted to help, but Kuro had already teleported behind him and slashed towards Long Mian. Both of them were about to be hit by the two deadly attacks. Now Su Qianni can only save one of them. A stone wall emerged behind Long Mian, blocking Kuro's fatal attack, and himself. His chest was pierced by Baizhen's sword. Su Qianni also lost his strength due to this attack. Long Mian came to help him up. Fortunately, Qianni used his last strength to avoid the vital point. At this time, Kuro and Baizhen slowly walked over. Qianni, you would save Long first. But it's too boring. You lost in just 2 rounds. In that case, then I'll send you on your way early. At this time, Long Mian warned them not to approach Qianni, or he would fight them to the death. Then he took out a stone from his body. This is the 5-dragon domain, which was given to me by the Queen of Zhuya in 8 countries, which contains the power of 5 horned dragons, which can instantly flatten the entire palace. If you dare to take another step forward, I will crush it immediately. I'd rather die with you. However, Kuro laughed at him crazily over there. This bluff is from Qianni Jiao, right? Because he could tell at a glance. It was just an ordinary 5-color stone, and then directly attacked Long Mian. And Long Mian also crushed the stone. But at this moment, a bolt of lightning really appeared. Chou was still wondering if it was true. Then a lightning flashed directly on him. The last episode mentioned that Chou was struck by lightning. Long Mian thought it was the queen who showed up. But in fact, it was just because Chou used metal attacks, which caused the lightning. In the early spring, hailstones the size of fists fell, which was too weird. Long Mian took this opportunity to escape. In the evening, in Incheon Rental Lane, Ji Ping was talking to someone about the abnormal weather today. The door behind her was violently opened. Ji Ping thought Gui Tian was entertaining guests. She turned around, but it was Long Mian and Su Qianyi with serious injuries. After Ji Ping called a doctor to stop Qianyi's bleeding, Long Mian hurriedly asked how she was now. Dr. Sun said that the wound looked serious, but it didn't hurt the vital organs. Plus Long Chow's strong self-healing ability, the external injury should heal soon. Only then did Long Mian breathe a sigh of relief. Qianyi used all his dragon power to save me. Fortunately, the situation is not too bad now. However, at this moment, Long Mian suddenly felt a palpitation. He knew that Qianyi was in trouble, and hurried over to check. At this time, Qianyi was trembling all over, with bloodshot eyes. Ji Ping quickly called Dr. Sun. It turned out that Qianyi was poisoned by a strange poison. Once it strikes, but also turn into a monster. At this moment, Qianyi's eyes had completely turned blood red. She grabbed Rongmian, but stopped when it was about to bite her neck. Qianyi tried to restrain her urge to suck blood. Dr. Sun said, "Let him drink your blood. This is the only way." Long Mian was puzzled about what it meant. Dr. Sun explained, he has seen these symptoms in ancient books. This poison is called yahai. The pain suffered by those who are poisoned, far beyond the pain of dislocation and breaking of bones. Ordinary people can't bear it at all. Only drinking the blood of a loved one can relieve it. Otherwise, there is no cure. However, Long Mian thought, I have a plan with Qianyi. I should be Qianyi's closest relative. But why has he been trying to resist drinking my blood? If drinking my blood could solve it, Qianyi would not hesitate. Finally, Long Mian chose to stop him from drinking blood. Suddenly, Qianyi spat out a mouthful of blood, and finally regained his sanity. Long Mian, thanks to you for stopping me at the critical moment. It turns out that drinking the blood of a loved one can indeed suppress desire for a short time. But once he drinks it, it is impossible to resist the temptation of blood, until the blood of the closest person is drained. Long Mian thought, that's great. He and Qianyi had such a tacit understanding. The doctor's son beside hurriedly apologized, saying, and only had a superficial understanding of ancient books. I nearly killed both of you. At this time, Qianyi didn't blame him, because it was ultimately the poisoner's fault. And if it weren't for Dr. Sun's medical skills, he would have died long ago. At this time, Qianyi remembered what Long Mian said. Indeed, if the blood was powerful, he would have drunk it without hesitation. But compared to the physical pain, he was more afraid of losing his mind, because he still had many important things to do. Dr. Sun reminded him that the toxin is not active now, but there is still a possibility of an attack. Long Mian shouted, I thought the Empire Kanbei was not a villain, but I didn't expect them to use such a sinister poison. But Qianyi said it wasn't them who poisoned, because if the White Needle Sword was poisoned, it couldn't have waited for us to escape for a long time. So someone else must have poisoned. Long Mian was surprised. If it wasn't for Kuluo and the others, who else could it be? At this moment, Qianyi probably knows who it is, but he didn't say it now. Long Mian wraps others in water bubbles. Can walk in the water. Just a few minutes ago, Su Qianyi was discussing with Ji Ping how to get rid of Gui Tianzhao. He said he had already sent a message to the princess and agreed to meet at the city's tea house and discuss this matter with you. But Ji Ping had a question. We are both good-looking and knowledgeable, and our backgrounds must be extraordinary. Wang Nu is the top noble of Maogua. Why does she advocate treating the common people well? Why is she willing to help us like this? Is there any other intention? At this moment, Long Mian was anxious. Ji Ping, don't make wild guesses. Qianyi and the princess are kind-hearted. and don't want to see the people suffer. Why do you still doubt them? Qianni waved her hand and said it's okay, and then told Jiping. All she did was for one purpose, is to become enlightened and help the poor. Hearing this, Qianni was also shocked. Qianni continued, I was born into the royal family, and the emperor is my elder brother. But Long Mian and I are wanted criminals. I traveled to various countries for 3 years. I saw the lives of too many poor people, so I want to change the status quo. Maogwa needs reform from top to bottom, and crucial reforms. I also need a stable and prosperous country to become the starting point for me to enter the court. So I chose to cooperate with you and the princess. Long Mian was surprised. Qianni had considered so much. At this time Ji Ping asked, would you ask Ping Anjuan to fight for you in return? But Qianni's answer surprised Jiping greatly. But after understanding, you all go back to your hometown and live a peaceful life. There is no more Ping and King, because Qianni needs an ally, not a sword. Ji Ping felt ashamed of her thoughts. Then she stood up and saluted Qianni. At this moment a sparrow flew in. It turned out that this was the message from the princess. Only then did she know that she had been imprisoned in Qingyuan Palace by the king. Long Mian wondered why the princess was imprisoned. The princess was imprisoned. Qianni thought for a moment and said, could it be that the King Mao has sensed the plan? Now we can only go to the palace to meet him. Long Mian worried about her health. Qianni thought that being with you would be a burden, and then turned to Long Mian and said, now only you can escort the brothers into the palace. But Long Mian was still worried whether he would be in danger here alone. At this time Qianni told him very seriously that, if we can help Maogwa through this crisis, we will gain this powerful ally. So I hope you can do whatever it takes to facilitate the cooperation between the princess and Ji. Qianni asked him if he could do it, although Long Mian was hesitant, but finally resolutely said he could do it. That morning, in the palace of Maogwa, Long Mian and Ji Pin sneaked into the city with the goods. But after entering they found that, to enter the palace, they needed to be strictly checked. But this was not a problem for Long Mian, because they could take the waterway. Long Mian cast a spell to wrap the two in a water ball, and then jumped into the water, and began to enter the palace by water. After they reached a well, they found Mao Wang and Gishianzhao here. Mao Wang asked about the remaining dragon generals. Gui Tianzhao explained that among the remaining 6 groups, 2 groups were noble, and are loyal to you. The remaining 4 groups were of common birth, but they are all loyal. Just in case, he had imprisoned them. At this time, Mao Wang turned to say, I guess your dragon is also of common birth. Gui Tianzhao assured Mao Wang that, my dragon has been completely tamed. Then he looked at his dragon coldly. This directly startled Xiaoning with a cold sweat. He immediately knelt down. Who would have thought that the respected dragon of Huaxia was scared to kneel down by just one look, and said he was willing to do anything for him, and took out a handkerchief to wipe his shoes. Seeing all this, Long Mian thought, what did Gui Tianzhao do to make Xiaoning so afraid of him? Gui Tianzhao said he already knew the location of the bandits' stronghold, and now he is going to flatten the rental alley without leaving any alive. When Ji Pin heard this, she thought Gui Tianzhao was a villain, but because of her excitement, and dropped a stone from the well, and this sound immediately caught Gui Tianzhao's attention. He rushed to the well in an instant, but strangely, he found that there was nothing in the well. In fact, Long Mian and Ren were in the well, but they were just holding cat mint in their mouths. Its effect is to make people invisible, but not for long, otherwise they will have stomachaches. Mao also asked Gui to suppress the bandits, and told him that when he returns from suppressing bandits, he would marry his daughter Yin Tianran to him. When Gui Tianzhao heard this, was shocked, and Xiaoning next to him also had an indescribable expression. Knowing that Zhu Ji is a dangerous sacrifice, he wanted to rush back to arrange the evacuation. But Long Mian stopped him, because the princess hasn't been found yet. So Long Mian told him not to worry. He could use his mind to tell Qianni about the situation here first. Long Mian was talking to himself over there. Suddenly, he said Qianni replied. He asked us to continue looking for the princess. He will arrange the footprint lane. And even if we go back now, it would be too late. Hearing this, Ji Ping also breathed a sigh of relief, so she continued to look for the princess with Long Mian. After all, the cooperation between Ping and Jun and the princess still needs Ji Ping to achieve. Meanwhile, Su Qianyi was about to arrange the evacuation, but suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. She thought she was too stubborn. She could only hope everything went well. At this time, in the Qingyuan Palace of Maogua Palace, Yin Pianran wanted to rush out by herself. Although the officers and soldiers dare not hurt her, they still surrounded her. Yin Pianran shouted, "I am the princess of Maogua. How dare you use swords and knives? What is your intention? Could it be that you want to force the palace to rebel?" These words scared the officers and soldiers. They hurriedly said they didn't dare, so they began to slowly retreat. Suddenly, a woman walked out of the crowd. She was Xiaoning, and she held a verbal order from the king, which was to tell Pianran, on the day of blessing, it was the time for her to marry Gui Tianzhao. Yin Pianran was shocked when she heard it. Xiaoning also asked him to return to the palace, waiting for General Gui to send a generous gift. At this moment, Pianran said to Xiaoning, "You have been by Gui Tianzhao's side for many years, and have been oppressed. I've seen it all, but I can't do anything. But this time, I implore you to help me. Perhaps this is a turning point for your liberation." After saying that, she wanted to step forward and grab Xiaoning, but was dodged by him. Xiaoning wanted to say something, but turned around and said, "His orders is my destiny. Princess, please go back." Yin Tianran heard this, drew his sword and pointed at Xiaoning, saying that we can only be enemies. But how could his strength compare to Xiaoning? In an instant, Xiaoning appeared behind him. "Princess, please respect yourself. Please don't be ungrateful." But strangely, Xiaoning's eyes were suddenly startled. Who could have beaten Long Mian into this state? Just a few minutes ago, Xiaoning was about to take the princess back to the palace. Then he suddenly sensed something was wrong, and looked back. There was a water ball trying to surround him. Then he slapped it down. When he looked again, it turned out that the water ball was Long Mian's trick, and the princess was also taken away by Ji Ping. The three immediately jumped into the water and escaped. A moment later, they appeared at the Qixia gate. The three were about to run out. As long as they go out through this door, they could escape. But what they didn't expect was that Xiaoning was already waiting outside. "You can't escape. Do you still want to struggle to the death?" Long Mian told Ji Ping that, to hold him back, and let them find a chance to leave first. Suddenly, a team of officers and soldiers came in, and they were Xiaoning's secondary army, consisting of 20 specially trained women, equipped with Xiaoning's special golden needles. At this moment, the Imperial Guard had surrounded Ji Ping and the princess. Suddenly, a golden thorn shot directly at Long Mian. Fortunately, he dodged it with a teleport. "Xiaoning, I've always wondered. Gui Tianzhao oppresses you everywhere, but you obey him. Could you like him?" Xiaoning was shocked. She shouted, "Don't talk nonsense. The general is the leader of the dragon generals, the strongest warrior in Maogua. I obey the strong willingly. Besides, it's not your turn to question me." Then several golden thorns shot towards Long Mian, although he dodged. But Long Mian found that within a 7-foot radius, he couldn't sense any water source. Xiaoning kept attacking to keep distance from Long Mian. He can only dodge by continuing like this, which is not a solution. Suddenly, he found that there was still some water in the bucket behind Xiaoning. But this amount of water was only enough for one attack. And at this moment, Xiaoning didn't want to waste time. He directly used his ultimate move, the Yellow Spring Gift, shooting countless golden thorns at Long Mian. Long Mian saw the situation and ran to the house. Xiaoning thought he wanted to escape, so she fired all of them at the house. But Long Mian actually used the speed of the stone pillar to quickly approach Xiaoning. But the price of such recklessness? The price was that Long Mian was injured by golden thorns. Long Mian used his strongest move, but Xiaoning still blocked it. He scoffed at Long Mian's attacks as futile. Then several golden thorns were shot out. At this moment, Long Mian's hair was scattered, and a mouthful of blood spurted out, and he was too injured to stand up, and he fell down with a thud. But at this moment, something suddenly hit Xiaoning's back. Only when he looked did he understand. What happened? It turned out that Long Mian rushed forward recklessly, was to cover his real killing move, which was the water in the bucket behind Xiaoning. But this attack still couldn't knock him down. Your feint is courageous, but the gap in strength between the gray dragon and the flood dragon is beyond your little wisdom. Quickly admit defeat, or I'll have to kill you. At this moment, Long Mian lying on the ground is not reconciled. Did he fail despite his best efforts? I'm so tired now. The only thing I can feel is the pain of the wound. Am I dead? But I haven't avenged everyone yet. How could I die here? The princess saw Long Mian like this, still refused to admit defeat. She quickly told Xiaoning that if he let them go, she can go back to the palace with you. But Xiaoning said it was too late to say that now. He continued to ask Long Mian if he would admit defeat. Long Mian slowly got up from the ground, saying that he had promised Qian Yi he must rescue the princess at any cost. Long Mian's body was emitting a red blood mist, shocking the nearby Imperial Guard to pieces. And at this time, Long Mian rushed towards Xiaoning and stabbed him with a blow. Xiaoning couldn't believe it. Long Mian still has such great power. Both of them passed out due to severe injuries. In the palace's servant room, Long Mian slowly woke up from a coma. Beside her, Ji Pin was discussing with the princess what to do next. Now the palace is under strict search, and this place is not a place to stay for long. The princess asked him what his plans were. Ji Ping wanted to leave the palace first and wait for Long Mian to recover from his injuries. Before Ji Ping could continue, Long Mian interrupted her on horseback. Now is the perfect time to meet the Cat King. It can't be missed because of me. At this time, Yun Pianran saw Long Mian wake up and hurried up to ask how he felt. He said that although he was still a little weak, but he would recover soon. Yun Pianran praised Long Mian for defeating his opponent. Embarrassed by the praise, Long Mian said, "He just did his best." Long Mian continued that while Gui Tianzhao was not in the palace, Xiaoning was seriously injured again. We should go to see King Mao quickly. At this time, Concubine Ji said that there must be heavy troops. I'm afraid the three of us can't handle it. Yun Pianran began to analyze the situation. Although I have the support of ministers, their men are scattered all over Yingchun City. If we wait for them to gather, we may miss the opportunity. Although there are no dragon generals in the palace now, but there are at least 500 officers and soldiers. But there are only 100 at the side gate. But we still need to prevent being attacked by reinforcements. So we need to break through quickly. Ji Ping listened and thought for a moment, and said I would find a way to deal with the 100. At this time, Su Qianyi also sent a letter. He has transferred all the Pingan army, and asked Long Mian and the others to act quickly. He will quickly gather the minister's troops to reinforce. But in fact, Qianyi was extremely weak at this moment. Now he only needs to set off the gathering fireworks to inform the ministers on the princess's side. Suddenly, Qianyi found that the searchers were coming, and they were a pair of dragon generals. Su Qianyi thought it was good. The pair of dragon generals were indeed nearby. Once the signal is sent, it can attract the attention of the officers and soldiers, so that the troops can be contained, ensuring the smooth transfer of the Pingan army. And the terrain of Zhejixiang is complex, which is good for me to escape. Meanwhile, in Maogua Palace, at the side door of Wuk Palace, a group of civilians came here. The leading officer quickly stopped them. At this time, the princess came out and said, Captain Liu, it's me, and I prepared some gifts to give my father a surprise. So you don't need to report, and let them pass quickly. But he said that without General Gui's warrant, no one is allowed to enter. At this moment, Yun Pianran coldly said, Liu Captain, I can let you out of trouble. In an instant, Jipping behind Pianran has drawn his sword and slashed at Captain Liu, and the battle was about to break out. Jipping commanded the Pingan army to form teams of 3, covering each other, keeping distance from the enemy. The princess was surprised by Jipping's excellent military ability. The servants with only weapons, under Jiping's leadership, could defeat the elite of the Hubei army in a row. He sighed that these people who were insignificant could explode with such great power. What surprised Yun Tianran even more was that these people were all palace servants, and all members of the Pingan army. The princess thought, They had infiltrated so deeply, she didn't even notice it. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but tremble all over. At this moment, a soldier had come behind Yin Tianran and slashed directly at him, and this blow scared the guard to death. The explanation ends here, and you can submit your application for free. Step 1. Like this post. Step 2. Comment with some emojis. Step 3. Share with at least one friend. Step 4. Submit your application here. The link is in the messages section. Good luck, everyone!